Hello, and welcome to the Wether-report. That was the chime. Now is the time for the Wether-report. Welcome and thank you for joining me, your host Perry McGann, on my journey to visit and rate every Wetherspoons in the UK and Ireland. Awarding them a wooden spoon, if you should give it a miss, or a silver spoon, if you should put it on your hit list. Now, if you've been enjoying the podcast, please give me a review on whatever service you are listening to. It does help me very much. Also, if you have any thoughts at all about the podcast, email me at perrysoldspooners@hotmail.com. Now, something I do need to address on the last podcast, the Sanford House in Huntingdon, I made a bit of a guff, well, if you'll excuse my pun. Right at the end, I turned to Pepsi to tell him he'd been trumping all the way through the podcast, thinking I'd stopped recording, but unfortunately I hadn't, and hadn't picked it up in editing. I can only apologise for this, and will be more diligent during the editing process. Claire and I is currently staying with her mother, and we are sharing Pepsi, and she does have a bad habit of feeding egg to him, which he gobbles down like a little gremlin. Problem is with dogs, they don't know what is bad for them. I guess that's a trait they share with us humans. But it does turn his little stomach upside down and makes his trumps unbearable. I also feel she does it to wind me up, as she knows how much it infuriates me, and it cannot be good for him. But, as always, I am joined by my flatulent co-host, Pepsi, who is laid on the floor right now as we speak, preparing his next deadly pump. This week's spoons is the Golden Lion in Newmarket, but before we get to that, it's time for Wetherspoons in the news. This week we have a planned Wetherspoons which has been scrapped, which is a former nightclub in Glasgow. Tusk, yes, like the Fleetwood Mac album. Not one of my favourite. I'm more of a Tango in the Night, Rumours and Mirage. But Mirage mostly for Gypsy, a personal favourite of mine. Sorry, off topic there. It had been reported that Wetherspoons had bought the building and had secured permission to turn it into one of its bars, but the plans were axed, and the building will go up for auction on 29th of August. It's a shame because it's a lovely looking building. Its uses have included a cinema, a bingo hall, a snooker club, and finally Tusk, the nightclub. This would have made a truly wonderful spoons. Shame it didn't work out. Next one is an interesting one. So there's a tour of Northern Wetherspoons, costing nearly £10,000 for two people. I wonder if they give me a single dozen's discount. The tour begins in Cumbria and finishes in Newcastle, including 4 or 5 star accommodations, entrance to various attractions. It starts in Keswick with a visit to the Chief Justice of the Common Pleas, which is a Wetherspoons and a former police station and magistrates. Other spoons include the Velvet Coaster in Blackpool, Northwest in Liverpool, and day 5 includes a trip to the Harrogate and the Winter Gardens. Now, if you guys do want to donate, I'll be happy to review this for you all. The third news article I found was in the Liverpool Echo, in which the author has tried the new sticky Korean fried chicken bowl. They were not impressed. The article is by Christopher McGrath, who is a self-declared Wetherspoons fan, so I feel this might be a balanced review and lists his usual as a heavily stacked burger. I quote, "I am well aware Wetherspoons has never declared itself as the pinnacle of fine dining, but it was disappointing to receive this as I was generally excited for a new addition to the menu. The food itself is fine, but it's not at all what I was expecting. Very disappointing." I have heard many mixed reviews about this dish, and I'm reviewing it on my next show, so stay tuned and see what I think. I did find an interesting article about Sir Tim Martin, but it's locked away behind a Telegraph paywall, and I'm not paying for that paper. That was the Wetherspoons in the news. Now, time for my review, starting with previous reviews of the Golden Lion. On TripAdvisor, they are scoring a middling 3.5 out of 5 from 316 reviews, and Google reviews a little better with 4 stars from 1,500 reviews. Now, I was surprised that given how appalling the spelling usually is on these reviews, I didn't find a review for the Golden Lion. The Golden Lion. Sounds like a gentleman's club for gentlemen who like gentlemen. Now the review. It's from Jamie G, and it goes, for a town where there's dog walkers everywhere, got told to leave my mutt, in inverted commas, would not be recommended visiting if you want drinks or food. They'd rather have clientele that's off their faces and not being able to string a sentence together than someone with a dog for food. My dog is registered an assistance dog, and even still didn't care. They'll happily have people bring their own cans of cheap cider and sit outside the front than actual paying customers. It wasn't until after they took my money for the drinks they told me I wasn't allowed in outside. Now, this is a very emotive review. As someone with a dog, I do understand the frustration caused by not being able to bring your dog with you, and agree with most of what Jamie G is saying, but I do understand Wetherspoon's stance on the subject, but do agree assistance dogs should be allowed in and not disturbed as they are working. Not like you, Pepsi. Never done a day's work in his life. No, you're fine, don't move, mate. I do feel the treatment here was appalling, as people drinking their own cans. I mean, it's a Wetherspoons, it's already quite cheap. I did once find a half bottle of vodka in a Spoon's toilet once and felt, oh, this is very unnecessary. Claire and I went to Ivy Brasserie once. Wish I'd hidden a few bottles of Bishop's Finger in a loo. I can tell you, we did go other places. It wasn't always just Wetherspoons, but I was thinking about Wetherspoons the whole time I was there. The next review is from Linda M, and she says, my partner and I decided to stop off for breakfast here. I ordered a large breakfast, and he ordered the American breakfast. Totally disappointed. Cheap sausages, bacon undercooked, and there was one piece of bacon, beans hard, no taste, mushrooms like it was sat on the plate for months. Burnt toast, both meals came out cold. Hot drinks, cold and weak. Waste of money. And when I spoke to a member of staff, they said sorry, but nothing else. We shall not be coming back. I actually sat at the table writing this review, and still no one has come over to speak to us. Now, this review is 10 months old, and I cannot defend the drop-off in standards this couple received. I can point out, though, the drinks were made by yourselves, so really, plenty of 4-star reviews, lots of pictures of tasty food. Mike T enjoyed his visit here. Sorry, just getting Mike T's review. Always good food and service. Staff are excellent. Keep the tables cleared quickly. Nice place to visit and eat. Brilliant review there, Mike T. Then we've got Sammy D. Or is it Sunny D? No, it's Sammy D. Had a large mixed grill. Wasn't massively impressed. The meats kind of tasted the same. However, for the price, it's probably worth it. Service is great, staff friendly. Would return, but order something different. Brilliant. Yeah. See, Sammy D there, enjoying his visit. Has anybody else had the mixed grill? Let me know, see what you think. Do you agree with these reviews or disagree? Let me know. Email me at perrysOldSpooners@hotmail.com. Also, feel free to leave a review. Now, that is it for other people's reviews of the Golden Lion. It's time for my review of the Golden Lion. I arrived in Newmarket and felt underwhelmed by the town. It was rather drab considering it's a self-proclaimed headquarters of horse racing. It felt like horse racing money wasn't being spent on the town itself, and the town felt like one long high street with not much going on and a small shopping precinct. Things to do in Newmarket include the National Horse Racing Museum, the National Stud, and West Stow, Anglo-Saxon Village and Country Park. So, if you like horse racing and Anglo-Saxon history, this is the place to come. I did notice a lot of salons offering Botox injections. Must be all the jockeys' wives keeping them in business. Now, don't take this as a slight on the people of Newmarket. I did notice that most of the men were shorter than average. This must have something to do with the large number of jockeys who have lived there over the years. But anyway, this is a podcast about Wetherspoons and not the breeding habits of jockeys. So, on to the Golden Lion. It is a large, but not large by Wetherspoon standards. The building itself has been a feature on the high street since the late 18th century, so a lot of history. I did find it an impressive building from the outside. The name originates from King Henry I. Looking online, there was a Golden Lion statue in the pub, something I failed to notice, and I didn't even have a drink this time. Now, I arrived at the pub about 11 a.m. and was ready for some breakfast. I entered through the front door and was met with tables full of regulars. They were all lining up their second or third pints of the day. Despite being regulars, they weren't intimidating, and I made my way to the back of the pub to find a table. The back of the pub, it appeared to be the family section of the pub, and this was shown by a sign on the wall. The garden looked very inviting. Now I wish I'd sat out there, as the aircon was working too well. It was freezing. I can say that this particular spoons is in need of an update. It was looking very tired and dated. The decor was very reminiscent of early 2000s Wetherspoons. The art on the wall was like something you would have seen on the wall in an 80s film, like Weird Science, a very problematic film in which two young men create a woman to have relations with. The carpet did look like a targeting system from an arcade shooter, such as Virtual Cop. That's literally the only way I could describe it. As it was still early on this occasion, I did not order an alcoholic drink. I did want to, trust me. I had a coffee and wanted just a normal Pepsi Max for something for taste, but had to settle for a cherry Pepsi Max. I'm not talking about you, go back to sleep. Co-host. I ordered the Fiesta Brunch, a new breakfast meal, which I was excited to try, which is toast with a poached egg, guacamole, pico de gallo, grilled halloumi, styled cheese, oh interesting, and mushroom. Now, the way in which it describes sounds like a flavoured sensation. The dish itself I was a little bit disappointing. The basic parts were good, but lacked the details to truly pop off. My main gripe being that the pico de gallo should have fresh lime juice on it, which cuts through the onion and the coriander, and would have taken it to a new level. But it truly tasted quite average. Now, I know I said my main gripe was the pico de gallo. It was actually the halloumi-style cheese, which was totally burnt on one side. I suspect the chef knew it was burnt, as it was served to me burnt size down. I was pretty much done by the time I got to my halloumi-style cheese, as I tend to eat things one by one, and was saving the best bit for last, or what I seemed was the best bit. So it seemed a fool's errand to complain, seeing as I'd eaten half of my dish by this point. Now, Sorry, and I just googled the difference between halloumi and halloumi style cheese, and so it seems halloumi is a protected destination of origin product, so a PDO, meaning that only approved producers from Cyprus can market the cheese under that. So producers outside of that have to call it halloumi style cheese, or I think there's another one, grilling cheese. The other parts of the dish were standard Wetherspoons offering. The poached egg was standard and cooked well. The toast was decent. The mushroom was standard Wetherspoons mushroom. It could have used a bit more guacamole, as there was the tiniest smear of it. Had it not been for the burnt halloumi style cheese, it would have been very good. So I might try this again in another spoons. It was rather small, and next time maybe I would order something extra on the side. But then again, the Fiesta Bench does weigh in at 659 calories, so maybe not. I had a latte for £1.04. It was really good value. The Pepsi Cherry Max, not for me. Not really my cup of tea, but fine. Again, I'm not talking to you, Pepsi. Having eaten, it was time for me to investigate the toilets. I found them clean. Some loo roll on the floor. I expected them to be clean at 11:30 on a Sunday morning. Something did strike me about the loos, though. It had clearly been refitted recently, and found it jarring walking back into quite a tired-looking pub. Another thing that struck me about the Golden Lion was they had all their fruit machines in its own section, almost like its own casino. Have you seen something like this in other spoons? Let me know. Email me at perrysOldSpooners@hotmail.com. Now, it's time for scores on the doors. Okay, so cleanliness. Despite looking tired, it was still clean and good order. Tables were clean. 2, speed of service. It was sub 10 minutes. Food arrived 5, so very quick. Staff, efficient, friendly enough. Time to the toilet. I did have to go up some stairs, but I didn't get any issues mixing up the men's and the women's this time. Clear signage. Toilet cleanliness, they were all clear, and the check sheet was up to date. Food, on the whole, I enjoyed it. The burnt halloumi style cheese didn't help, but it was still solid. Quality of drink, the coffee was nice, especially at the price. The Pepsi Cherry wasn't for me. I wasn't drinking due to it still being quite early. Maybe when I do an airport spoons, I'll have a breakfast with a pint. Now, I've looked at the prices, and I want to give you a rundown. The cheapest pint at the time of visiting was Warrington's Cream Flow at £1.86. Ales, when I visited, were Doombar, £2.10 a pint, Abbott Ale, £2.86, and the two guests were Wimbledon SW19 Blonde Pale Ale and Brightside Time Bandits. They were both £2.63 a pint. Time Bandit Ale had too interesting a name to be nice. That's my rule when it comes to ales. I've checked, and they do have Ruddles at £1.79, so that would be the cheapest pint. Other drinks included Bud Light, no. Again, Stowford was £2.10, Strongbow at £2.55. I'll start including Guinness, as this is now the most popular drink in the UK. And that comes in at £3.15. A G&T Gordon's, £2.10. The Golden Lion had a good selection of drinks, affordable prices, and a whole was a very enjoyable experience. I am going to award the Golden Lion a silver spoon. Good quality offering. Now, let me know. Have you been to the Golden Lion? Share your thoughts. Email me in at perrysOldSpooners@hotmail.com. Now, it's time for letter spoons. This week, we received a bag-busting 3 emails. So let me get straight into them. First one reads, Dear Perry, I am very much enjoying yours and Pepsi's review of Wetherspoons. I am looking forward to hearing more. That was from my mum. No, It was from Lisa Kay in Ramsgate. My mother, of course, is dead. Her favourite spoons is her local one, the Royal Victorian Pavilion. That's Lisa Kay, not my dead mother's. She would like to share a bottle of Koppenberg strawberry and lime with Reese Weatherspoons. Very clever there. Reese Weatherspoons, of course, famous for her film Legally Leffy Blonde. Just continuing the pun there. The Royal Victoria Pavilion holds the mantle of being the largest spoons in the country, and I look forward to reviewing it in the near future. Thank you so much for your email, and I hope you're enjoying this episode. And you have the honour of being our first POS, Perry's Old Spooner. Now, the second email is from Mark C. in Hemel Hempstead. He says, great podcast, but there are some areas lacking. I feel this will come with time. Thank you for your constructive but also vague feedback there, Mark. I think he must be some kind of middle manager. He says his favourite spoons is the Green Parrot in Perranporth, Cornwall. He has fond memories of sitting out in the sun with his family on holiday. That's a lovely image there, Mark. He would like to take Chris Martin of Coldplay fame to a Spoons and buy him a steak dinner. I can't be sure of this, Mark, but I think Chris Martin might be a veggie. Let's Google. Sorry, getting there. Oh. So it seems Chris Martin isn't a vegetarian. He stopped being a vegetarian somewhere around 2014. I stand corrected. Apologies, Mark. To be fair, the allure of a bacon sandwich can be difficult to resist for the most pious of us all. Thank you for your email, Mark. I'm sure Chris Martin would love to fix you a blue willow pattern plate of dead cow. Welcome to the club, you POS. Now, our final letter is from Jared S. from Ely in Cambridgeshire. Ely famous, of course, for being the second smallest city in England. Known for its Norman Cathedral, known locally as the Ship of the Fens. Jared writes, I'm loving the content. Please keep it up. Thank you, Jared. Jared's favourite spoons is the whalebone in Down Market. Not too far from Ely then. He would love to take Tim Lovejoy for a pint of Carling. I struggled to work out who Tim Lovejoy was then, as the name Lovejoy confused me, and I thought he might have meant Ian McShane, who famously played Lovejoy in the TV show of the same name in the 90s. I do think Ian McShane would be a right laugh in the Wetherspoons. But Jared means the fella from Sunday Brunch and Football AM on Sky. Remember when Sunday Brunch was called Something for the Weekend, when it was on BBC Two, where it had a male and female hosts, as well as Richard the Chef. But obviously that concept changed when they moved it to Channel 4, as Richard the Chef just doubled up on duties and became co-host and chef. Louise Nurdin, famously one of the co-hosts on Something for the Weekend, she was famous for being in the girl group Eternal. Somewhat of an ironic name now looking back, as they no longer exist. Claire and I is a pretty big fan of Sunday Brunch. Loved the dogs in football shirts bit in the show. She tried to put Pepsi in a Spurs shirt once to take a picture to send in. I'm talking about you, not to you. But he bit her. Can't say I blame him. He is more of an Arsenal dog. Big Lasetta fan. Well, thank you for your email, Jared. And welcome to the club, you're now a POS. I'm afraid that is the end, guys. More Wetherspoons related content next week. I'm headed to Bishop Stortford and the Port Jackson, so looking forward to that one. If you've enjoyed the show, please leave a review. It does help me a lot. And if you want to be a POS, email me at perrysodspooners@hotmail.com and I'll read out your email. So say goodnight, Pepsi. Good night, Pepsi. But I'm afraid whether you like it or not, that is the end. And I'll see you next time. Good night.